Here we go. All right. So I'm sitting here today with John Palladino, who graduated from Thunder Ridge in 2003. John was an ex-player of mine. He was a football stud and a baseball stud for our football and baseball programs at Thunder Ridge High School. And I'm just going to introduce you to him and have him introduce himself to you, and we'll start our interview from that process. So, John, tell us a little about who you are, where you're from, and what you're doing now.
All right. Like Coach said, my name is John Palladino. I graduated '03 from Thunder Ridge out in Hounds Ranch, Colorado. I now live on Long Island in New York. I've been in New York for almost 14 years at this point. I have been in New York. I have done many things. Mostly I worked for the Fire Department of New York for 6 years. Also started my own baseball program on the Upper East and Upper West Side of Manhattan. We were called New York City Rebels. I actually named the organization after the Columbine Rebels because that was my first coaching job, was at Columbine, and that's kind of where I cut my teeth in the coaching world. Ran the program for about 4 years in Manhattan, then got hired by the fire department, let my program go, and just kind of coached on the side. While working for the fire department, I was actually diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer at the age of 30. The cancer had spread to my lymph nodes and my lungs, and about a year later, we found out it had spread to my brain as well. Since that time, I left the fire department, but always continue to coach because coaching is what I do. Being around baseball is who I am. So I met my wife while I was going through chemotherapy, and we fell in love and got married. And the next thing I knew, I was living on Long Island. And while I was on Long Island, I started coaching again. And in my coaching career, I've actually gone down the ladder. I started coaching high school and found my niche coaching 8s, 9s, and 10-year-old teams. And on Long Island, I worked for a place called Baseball Heaven, and actually won National Coach of the Year through Baseball Heaven, which is an organization that is, I think they're based out of California. We have teams in Texas, New York, obviously. It's called Team Steel is the organization, and that's where I'm at today. I no longer work at Baseball Heaven. I'm pursuing different things now, stepping away from the coaching and trying to find a new route in life.
Well, John, your journey has been amazing to me. I'll give you a little background on John. When he played for us, and John can kind of elaborate on this, but when John you were 8th grade, right? When your father passed away?
Summer going into senior year,
Yeah.
or freshman year, sorry.
Freshman year, yeah.
Yeah.
And his father tragically passed away of a heart attack, and I can remember going over to his house because his older brother Joe played for us as well, and going over to his house that day and seeing John and Joe and his mom, and it was just a sad day. And tell us a little bit about that, John, about what kind of impact that had on you, losing your father at such a young age.
Sure. It's something that it took a long time to fully understand what happened. A little context is, he died on July 5th, the morning of July 5th, around 3 a.m. And on July 4th, we had a large gathering at our house, all of our friends, our family, all of our baseball buddies. I mean, you name it, they were in our neighborhood, and there was probably about 100 people there that night. And then to wake up around 3 a.m, surprisingly enough, another Thunder Ridge alum was staying at my house at night. A man named Kevin Mackey, who I'm still very close friends with to this day, was there that evening. And it didn't sink in for a very long time. It took many years for it to actually hit me as to what took place and what happened. And now looking back on that day, I only see positive memories from it. I only think of the night before and how lucky I was that the night before I got to have one of the greatest parties I think my family ever threw at our house. We got to spend that with my father. And you look back on it and you're very grateful for the time that you got to spend with them, even though in the moment you don't realize that. it affects you in ways that you don't understand until you let it really sink in. But my memories of that are at this point in my life at 36 years old are nothing but positive, and I don't see my life any other way. I think my father was in my life for the amount of time he was supposed to be in my life for, and I'm grateful for everything that he taught me. Even though I was never that easy to teach, he ultimately got through to me later on in life, and and I'm grateful for people like Kevin and my brother and my mother and people that have always been there for me to help me through some tough times.
How do you think it affected you through your high school time? You and I have talked, and I think it kind of made you a little bit bitter then at that point in your life.
I think bitter is putting it lightly. I think angry,
Yeah.
confused was more, in a way, in a sense, that night, my childhood had ended. The fairy tale childhood that every kid thinks of, and the family life, and playing sports, and always going on trips for sports and family vacations, and it all ended very abruptly. And I wasn't sure how to handle that at that point in time, because we went from a strong family unit to my brother being a senior in high school, and the next year he was gone. My mother now working two jobs, and all of a sudden I'm home by myself, and I don't know what to do. And when you're in that situation, when you're 15, 16 years old, sometimes the decisions you make are not very sound, to put it lightly.
Well, yeah, but you overcame.
Of course.
I think that's the thing that we want to get out of this is the ability of you to overcome all that and come full circuit to where you are now is amazing. We'll get to that as we go here. What was it like growing up in Highlands Ranch when you grew up here?
Highlands Ranch. Highlands Ranch has changed immensely since I grew up there. I feel like growing up there, it was a small town. There was two high schools. Big rivalry between the two high schools, and our school was brand new. My brother was the first graduating class ever through that school. You opened that school, Coach, and I was the first class to go through from freshman to graduating with a full class in it. So, we were very new at what we were doing. And I feel like there was this really nice sense of community in the school, because everybody was so tight and a part of opening that school up and really opening up, I feel like, Highlands Ranch to the rest of the state. And people realizing, well, this is, this town is growing. People are moving here. It's a safe place to live. And I'm so grateful I was able to grow up in Highlands Ranch.
What are some of the things that you really loved to do as a kid, and some of the things you love to do in high school? I know you love sports.
Always was a baseball and football guy. Baseball first. I think back about the high school games somewhat. I think back more about the times with all my friends playing pickup baseball, playing pickup football, or whatever game we could think of that day. We didn't spend much time inside. We were always out running around. I still talk to friends about those days, and we always wish, I hope our kids get that experience that we had growing up, because we were so lucky to have it. It's something that I try to instill in my son now, and understanding how important it is to really take in your youth and enjoy it, because and enjoy the people you're around, because those are your friends for life, and those are the people you're always going to depend on.
And when you were in high school, what was it like for you academically, trying to get through high school?
Struggle, a very serious struggle. And it wasn't even the academic part of it. It was the discipline side of it. It was the showing up to class side of it, the turning my work inside of it. I felt like I was always a smart kid who just didn't have the mental capacity to buckle in and do what needed to be done. So I struggled through high school, and it took a lot of people helping me to carry me through to get me to graduate, because it was a toss up whether I was going to walk for graduation. And luckily I was able to at least get enough done to graduate high school. But man, it was tough. It was a long road.
But I can tell you, I remember the day you graduated, and I do remember the day you walked across and got your diploma and stuff. And what a great feeling that was for me. I can tell you that. Because you had a lot going on with your dad passing and the stuff you had mentioned earlier. So I think that's what a lot of people got to understand is is that bitterness, and sometimes some of those things stays with you for a long time,
Sure.
and that's kind of what our story is about today, is you overcoming all of that. And it's been fun to watch your growth and progression. And as you moved on and you got into life and you became a servant, you served others by being a firefighter, you served others as being a coach. What did that do, just that service piece? How much did that change your life?
I think realizing that life is bigger than yourself, that the only way to be successful in this life is to be there for others in their time of need. And joining the fire department, one of my goals with joining that was, I remember the night that my father died, and when the fire department and the paramedics and everybody came and did everything they could to help my father, they didn't know off of anybody on the street. It could have been anybody, but they treated him with great respect and did everything they could to help save his life. Even though they were unsuccessful, I knew in my heart they did everything they could. Um, and I always looked at that and I was like, wow, that's pretty admirable thing to do. At 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 in the morning, to get a call and go and try to save someone's life is a pretty amazing thing. So that is something that pushed me towards wanting to do that. And actually working in the fire department, you meet a lot of people who have similar type stories where, they see people doing this, and that's really what drives them. Um, Coaching, working for the fire department was a really fun part of my life, but in my heart, I've always felt that baseball and coaching and being around kids was my life and what I was put here to do. Um, so, and being able to mentor kids that are going through tough times, and people like you, coach, who saw that I was going through a tough time, were able to help me through that. And as a coach, I felt like I was able to connect with kids in a way, because when kids struggled, I understood it. And to understand struggle, you have to struggle. And to get through struggle and to get through hard times, you have to learn how to adapt and overcome and look at the bigger picture. And that's something that always drove me, was to help kids know, like, you're going to fail. Things are going to be hard. Things are going to be tough, but you got to keep going. You can't stop. You
And,
can
and
never stop.
and then the next part of your life is just amazing to me. Um, I know what kind of battle you've forged on this cancer fight that you have. It was about 3 years ago. We had connected on Christmas morning, and you had told me that you actually weren't there for your son's first Christmas morning because you had basically blacked out and fell out of bed and had to go to the hospital and everything else. And I mean, it just scared the heck out of me. But I want you to go through a little bit about what it was like to go through your cancer diagnosis, what it was like to hear the doctor tell you that, and have to, kind of get out of the fire department because of it, and what the struggle has been and the fight has been with your cancer fight. If you can take us through that, it would be awesome.
Sure. So when I was diagnosed with cancer, I was 30, and it was a shock. As someone who spends their whole life and their career helping others who are sick and being there for others, and then all of a sudden having the tables turned on you, and now you're the patient, and now you're being told by doctors what you shouldn't do, what's going to happen. Um, First it was shocking to be a male, to be 30, and to be told you have stage 4 metastatic breast cancer. It's something that I don't think many 30-year-old men have ever heard in their life. I'm sure there's a few others out there, but it's a really rare diagnosis. And the strangest part about it, as a patient, was doctors were clamoring to be my doctor because of how rare of a case of what I had was. Getting the diagnosis was a strange feeling, because when I was first told what I had, the doctor told me, well, your cancer's too far gone. We're not going to give you chemotherapy. We're just going to give you palliative care and hope for the best. And she's like, and so I said, so wait a minute, you're not going to give me chemo? She's like, no, you have stage 4 cancer. We don't typically do chemotherapy for stage 4 patients. I said, well, what are my options? And she said, you can do palliative care. And I said, well, how long do people usually last with palliative care? She goes, oh, about 6 months to a year. She's like, I've seen people go longer. And, at that moment, I was actually at New York Presbyterian Hospital, which is one of the top tier hospitals. It's not well-known cancer hospital. And, I told the doctor, I said, thank you, but no, thank you. I'm going to go find a doctor who's going to treat me, because I will defy the odds. And she looked at me and she said, good luck, but, your diagnosis is not good. I said, well, thank you for your honesty, but, it's time for me to find someone who's going to fight this with me, who's going to join, who's going to do this with me. So I did. And, I found another doctor, and it started a week later, and it was 12-hour chemotherapy sessions every other day to start. It was pretty intense. They start hooking you up to multiple chemotherapy bags in one day, and you start looking around going, man, this is serious. This is as serious as it gets. But I knew, I made a decision that no matter what was going to happen, I was never going to stop, never going to stop the fight, never going to give up. It's funny when you have cancer and people always say you have a cancer battle. I always go, well, life is a battle. Cancer is just an extension of life, and it's something that a lot of people deal with in life. So I look at it as a person that's living and thriving with cancer. If you look at it as a battle, there's a winner and a loser in a battle. And I don't plan on losing this battle. And we all lose the battle of life ultimately, but the cancer battle, I don't believe in. I believe I'm just living my life with cancer.
And was this, when you got this diagnosis, this is before you met your wife, correct?
Correct. Yeah. Correct.
You're basically going through this out in New York, kind of on your own, because your family's still out here.
Correct.
Right. I know you have some friends and stuff that you had met out there through the fire department and so forth, but
sure,
family's out here worrying about you, and you're out there doing these 12-hour sessions,
yep,
kind of all by yourself.
Yeah. It was really strange at first, because, when I first got diagnosed, I was on my own. I walked into a doctor's office. He looked at me, he's like, you got to go to the hospital right now. You got to get this looked at immediately. So I kind of went through the first stages and getting diagnosed on my own. And I was actually worried to tell my family. I wasn't sure how to tell them this. I mean, it's pretty daunting news to hear from your son or your brother or whoever it is in my family that he's living in New York. I was living in Manhattan at the time. I'm lucky because my aunt, my uncle, and my cousin, I have some extended family in New York who were there for me. And I have amazing friends. A good friend of mine from high school, he came out right away. He was there with me the entire time when I was getting PET scans and doing all that stuff, and waiting with me in the waiting room. And having him by my side. Another Thunder Ridge, he didn't graduate from Thunder Ridge, but my friend Raymond, who I'm still very close with to this day, he was there for me the entire time. And Kevin, my closest friend from childhood, we reconnected because life kind of sent us in separate directions for a long time. And I'll never forget, he gave me a call, and it was like time never stopped between us. It was like boom, we were right back to being 13, 14-year-old kids having fun. So when you have that kind of connection with so many people and so much support, it makes it a little easier to handle it, to get through it.
And you've been fighting it for 6 years now, is what you said, right?
Yeah, January I think like 16th or something like that, I'll start my 7th year of treatment.
And where are you at now?
So basically, what happened was when I was first diagnosed, I had it, and they found multiple, too many nodes to even count in my lungs. I had multiple nodes in my lymph nodes, and the lump in my chest, when they took it out, actually that was years later, was about the size of a golf ball. So they going through all that treatment, and then a year into my treatment, I just started not feeling right. I started getting confused. I wasn't sure what was like. I would walk outside and not remember why I walked outside. Like certain things were happening. It's like, and it's hard to tell because they talk about chemo brain, and you get forgetful, and it's true, that does happen to you. But my now wife, she was then my girlfriend, who I met about 6 months into treatment. She's like, John, you need to go to the hospital and maybe get it figured out. And I was in the middle of coaching at the time on Long Island, and I said, I was driving home one night, and I got lost. I didn't know where I was. I didn't know how to get home. I was confused. I didn't know what was happening, and I finally made my way home. And the next morning, I woke up and I told my wife, I'm going to the hospital. Something's going on. And that's when they did a brain scan, and they found 23 nodes in my brain, which was causing all the confusion and stuff like that. So there's been a lot of treatment, a lot of chemo. I mean, more chemo. You name the chemotherapy, I've taken it, probably more than once. Radiation, I ended up having what's called CyberKnife radiation on my brain. CyberKnife is a targeted radiation, which instead of doing whole brain radiation, they pinpoint every node that's in your head, and they target it and hit it with high doses of radiation, and had a lot of success with that. That was about 3 years ago. 4 years ago now. It was 2016 when I had my first brain radiation. And then I finished with the brain radiation, I think in 2018 was the last time I got it. And now where I'm at is basically what they call stable disease, where I will always, it's more or less at this point, keeping everything where it is. My lungs are completely clear. My lymph nodes are completely clear. There's very small cancer counts in my blood work, but there's still about 3 nodes in my brain. They're still trying to decipher if one of them they know is cancer, it's been there the entire time, and the other 2 they think could be necrosis, which is something that happened from the brain radiation, which ultimately led to I started having seizures. And the first seizure I had was on Christmas Day, my son's first Christmas. I woke up actually in an ambulance. The next thing I remembered was going to sleep and then waking up in an ambulance and not knowing what happened, and on my way to the hospital. And that's when we found out that I had necrosis in my brain, which can be more dangerous than cancer because it spreads like cancer. It spreads faster than cancer, and it basically is killing your brain tissue. So that led me down another path of now treating the treatment, which is such an amazing thing when science has come so far to where we're now at a point where we could treat the treatments, the side effects of the treatments. So I had to go on a different chemotherapy drug to treat the radiation damage that was caused in my brain, which was very successful. The necrosis has basically gone away. There's only 2 little spots left, and we're kind of just in a monitor. Every 3 months, 4 months, I'll go and get a scan just to make sure things are the same.
And when you first started your story and you were talking about that doctor who said she wanted to put you in palliative care and all that stuff, and you decided not to do that and you wanted to fight it. How much did being an athlete kind of play into your mindset there in terms of, because I know as your coach who coached you in football and in baseball, that you are one of the fiercest competitors that I've ever coached. And I could give you some examples of that, but we don't have time. But how much did that play into that decision to let's go, let's get after this, and let's beat this thing?
It was a major part of it. A major part of it. You teach kids, and when you coach kids, you play from the first pitch to the last pitch. You don't take a pitch off. When you play football, you don't take a single snap off. You grind it out no matter what happens, no matter what comes your way. And that mentality is huge, not just in living with cancer, but life. And if you have that mentality of, okay, whatever comes my way is not too big for me. And I have to look at it and take a step back from it and go, okay, just give it to me straight. Tell me what we got to do, and let's go. Let's go. I don't want to know every side effect that these drugs can give me that you're pumping into me. I don't want to know that stuff. I want to know, can these get me results? And I'm going to take a chance, and go after it as hard as I can, because when you're backed into a corner like that, there's only one way out of it, and that's to fight, and that's to put your foot down and say, let's do this. Let's go through this. And luckily, as far as chemotherapy went, I never got very, very sick, like nausea sick, vomiting sick, stuff like that. But it's because I always stayed active. People, the guys I used to coach with in the city, and they thought I was crazy because I would go and do a 12-hour treatment of chemo, and then the next day wake up and spend the whole day on the baseball field. The bald head, put my hat on. I lost my eyebrows. They still haven't fully come back. But then I would go out, be out on the baseball field for a doubleheader or practices or whatever needed to be done the whole next day. And I feel like that was a part of what I was doing. I was like, I can't teach these kids to play this game, and then just because something happened to me, I got to go on the sidelines and I have to walk away from this, because now I'm showing these kids, no matter what comes your way in life, you got to deal with it, and you got to keep being who you say you are. Actions speak louder than words, and I feel like just being on that field and being a part of it was really important.
That's so awesome. And when did you meet Trisha, your wife, during that time?
So I met my wife about 6 months into treatment.
Okay.
I always struggled with God and with belief in God, and then I met my wife. And when you have cancer and meet your wife at the same time, and everything feels, there's a point when you get cancer, you feel like everything's just unraveling, and all of a sudden someone comes into your life that you weren't expecting at all, who not only did we fall in love very quickly, but she became such an important part of my cancer life, and living with cancer and researching. I mean, she researches, it's unbelievable what she's able to do, and how she's able to talk to doctors and organize things and get things together. And she's a major reason, God put her into my life and me into her life. And if you ask me, she's the reason why I'm talking to you today, because she found doctors, she found treatments, she did all kinds of things that I mentally couldn't do. Because when you're going through that, you do need someone there that's going to fight your battle for you. That's going to be the ones who, like, you got to go do this, you got to go do this, you got to be here, and she did that.
And she stuck by you. It's just an amazing story. And
Yep.
And the result of that is JJ.
Yeah.
Tell us
Another
about JJ.
another small miracle in life. For a long time, when I first got diagnosed with cancer, and the second doctor I went to who was treating me, I went to him, I said, should I, be concerned about if I want to have kids in the future? He's like, well, honestly, the chances of you having children after the chemotherapy we're going to give you is pretty much zero. So I hadn't met my wife then. I was like, well, at that point in my life, I was single. I was like, well, I guess I'll just go through this and kind of see what happens. And I continued with the chemo. I always wanted kids. I worked with kids. They were always a big part of my life. And we got married, and 2 days after we were married, my wife was like, I think I might be pregnant. And I said, well, I don't know if that's really possible. She's like, I know, trust me, I've been doing the research. It says that, I'm not, there's no way you're going to have kids after the treatments you've been on. And sure as heck, 8 months later, JJ came along. And it's just another miracle of the journey.
And he's what, 3 now, John?
He'll be 3 in January.
3 in January?
Yeah.
That's amazing. The whole story is amazing to me because I've known you for a long time. And to watch your progression from a 9th grader until now, I knew you probably a little bit before 9th grade because you were coming to hang out at the field with your brother and so forth. But to know you from those times until now it's an amazing story. What do you think your dad's passing and your cancer and all that stuff, what has that done to the purpose of your life?
It's something. It's a good question. It's something that I think I still think about, and um, I think, man, that's a tough question because I feel like my purpose in life is to be there for others, is to inspire others, is to push others through adversity. Um, Sometimes, I can lose myself in that. Um, and you can lose your way like anybody can. And I kind of have to rein myself back in and go, sometimes the most important thing you can do is take care of yourself. And that's something I've really started to do over the last couple months, and really seriously over the last, I would say, month. I've really started to kind of look, introspectively and go, I've done a lot for others and I want to continue to inspire others, but I want to inspire myself too. Um, and it's funny how talking to you and meeting with you, and how I still need inspiration, and people like yourself, coach, are an inspiration to me. I think um going through the cancer and losing my father and meeting my wife and all these things that have happened in my life have formed me into the person that I am. I'm not a perfect person, but I want to be as good as I can for myself and to be a good example to others. A lot of people in my wife's family, they always say how lucky they are to meet me and how I inspire them, and I'm grateful for that, and I try to inspire, but I think the best way to inspire is to be true and be true to yourself. And people see that and they understand that when they see someone who, you know, not that I have everything figured out, but I have what's important figured out or trying to figure out.
Let me go back to when that doctor first told you that there's nothing they could do for you. What what kind of gave you the purpose in saying to her, "No, it's not going to work. I'm going somewhere that's going to fight with me." What was your purpose there? Was it something greater than yourself that you could see that gave you a purpose for going to do that?
Sure. I think that it was something where I wanted to, like I said, I wanted to push hard and push through it, and do something to such a the man. That's a tough question, Coach. I think the purpose behind, I never actually sat and looked behind that. I think the purpose of it was to prove that it doesn't matter what people tell you or what a doctor can tell you or what diagnosis you get. What matters is, do you believe in yourself and do you believe that you can do this? And I knew going into that office I wasn't going to get good news, um, but I also knew that whatever the news was, I was gonna push through it, and and just do what I've always done, and is get through the hard times of life. And the purpose was to really just say, hey, you can tell me whatever you want to tell me, but what I'm telling you is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go find someone that's going to do this for me and work with me. And um, you know, it's sad um, when people get that kind of news and they hear, oh yeah, that cancer, it'll kill you in 3 to 6 months. Start getting things in line, and people listen to that and they go, okay, well, that's it, pack up the bags and write up the will and do whatever I got to do. When, look, do I think there's a lot of luck what happened to me? Sure, absolutely. Do I think that God had a huge part of it? Absolutely. And I think God wanted me to stay around for a while to inspire and to push people to know that, look, no matter what anybody says, you push through and you do what you can, and as long as you can.
Saying in the back of your mind, I think during that time you're thinking, I still got a lot of coaching to do. I still
Yeah,
got a
you're
lot of,
absolutely right.
you know,
I was looking at my watch going, I got practice in an hour.
yeah, there you
Yeah,
go. But the point of that is the purpose was greater than yourself. The purpose was
absolutely.
you still had a lot to give and you still I got goosebumps thinking about this right now, John, because this is what we always talk about as coaches. This is always what I always tried to preach in all our teams and so forth is your purpose is greater than yourself.
Yep.
And your purpose there was greater than yourself because you knew I got to get to practice. These kids need me. Somebody else needs me. The purpose is greater than myself. And that's what really pulled you through this thing
Yep.
and is keeping you going. And now you even have a greater purpose with Trisha and JJ and your mom and your brother and sister and everyone that's involved with it, because now
Yep.
you're on an inspirational track.
Yep.
And it's so fun to watch and to see what you're doing now is it's just kind of crazy to me. I not crazy. It's
It's a little
so
crazy.
as a coach who coached you then, and you and I talked about a little bit yesterday when we talked about some of the hurdles that we had,
Yep.
not between you and I, but just some of the, I recognize that you were struggling and a little bitter about what happened with your dad, which any 15-year-old kid would be, and overcoming that, everything that you've overcome, you've really overcome it by serving others.
Yeah.
Well, you kind of overcame almost not getting out of high school and doing all those things by going into coaching first. You overcame kind of the loss of your father by going in and being a firefighter so that you could help and serve others. And now that the cancer fight's there, and the first time you tried to overcome it and you're overcoming this and you're fighting it and everything else was so that you can keep serving others by coaching and so forth. And now it's even a bigger, greater purpose with your wife and your son. Um,
Yep.
it's so awesome to watch, and it's such an inspirational story for everyone to go to listen to. And what kind of perspective, John? Because my book is purpose, perspective, and passion. So I'm going to
Yep.
ask you, what kind of perspective do you have on life now after going through all of this?
You know, you look at life very differently. It's a weird balance of living every day like it could be your last day, and also looking to the future. So it's kind of finding that sweet spot of what can I do if today is my last day, and today is the day that God calls me. What can I leave behind, and what can I do for my family, and um, what can I do today? Even if it's just, my wife always gives me a hard time because I don't like to go to bed until until all the glasses and dishes and everything are washed, dried, put away, and put in the cabinet. There's a coffee mug in the Keurig for my wife in the morning with the coffee, so all she has to do is push it down and she's got her coffee ready, because I don't want to leave her with something undone. And there's small little things where she goes, John, you don't have to do that, I'll do it in the morning. And you try to explain to somebody, well, this is my way of saying this is what I'm doing for you, even though it's a small little thing that I can do. It's this weird perspective I have on life where if you wake up in the morning and I'm no longer here, there's less for you to worry about, there's less things for you to have to do. You can focus on our son, you can focus on whatever needs to be done, and you don't have to worry about small little things in life. So your perspective really changes to how can you leave things um, as well as you can, but also how can you live every day as well as you can. So that's how I kind of, and I get stuck in it sometimes. It's not an easy balance, and it's something where it's hard to describe to somebody, but at the same time, it's like I think everybody should live their life that way. How can we have to live for today and plan for tomorrow, but when tomorrow's not guaranteed, how do you plan for tomorrow? How do you overcome that? Just I'm going to live day by day by day by day, because that's not a good way to live either. So it changes your perspective on the long term and on the short term, and it's finding that balance to be happy and to be a productive person.
Well, I look at it like this is my quest or my purpose in life right now is I think when we're born, we're born with a peace of mind, right? We come out, we're crying and everything else, and then the doctor puts you in your mother's arms, and all of a sudden you have a peace of mind. You're
Yep.
good. And
You
my
belong.
quest is that everyone who hopefully gets to live a long, 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 happy life, when they're on their deathbed or when they're about ready to pass away, that they die with a peace of mind,
Yep.
that they die, that they have passed away knowing that they gave everything they possibly could to help others, to serve
Yep.
others, to make the world a better place, to make
Yep.
good in the world. And and that's kind of what it sounds like your perspective is now, and leaving a legacy. And I think you're already, hopefully you live to 120 years old, because you have so much to give people. It's unbelievable. And I want you to know that.
Yeah.
Um, so my last P is passion. What is your passion now? Has that changed over the years, or
Sure.
has it become
Yeah.
stronger now because of this? Or what's your true passion that you love to do?
Absolutely. So, I always tell people, because now, where we're at, my wife works from home, and I'm basically a stay-at-home dad, um, with my son all day, and I go to sleep excited to wake up and be like, what am I going to do with my son tomorrow? What are we going to do around the house? I am confined because with having a seizure history, I can't drive so I don't drive with my son. If I'm going anywhere, it's my wife, my son, and I. Um, but I think of all things we can do in our house. We have a big yard. We're able to have fun. And my passion is to see him grow, to watch him grow, to watch him smile, to watch him laugh, to hear him call me daddy is like heart melting every day. And my passion in life has truly become love, and being able to truly love my wife and truly love my son and truly love my family, something that I think a lot of us struggle with,
Yeah.
understanding what true love really means. And I will fully admit that for a long time I didn't know what it meant. Um, and now my passion is to just show my family, my friends, the kids I've coached. I still get text messages, I'm sure, like you do, like any coach, from parents asking advice for what to do with their kid next with baseball or whatever it is. And I love answering those text messages or phone calls and being like, oh, it makes me feel good to know that, hey, I had such an impact on this kid 8 years ago when I was coaching him. Either the kid or the parent is now contacting me saying, what should I do, coach? Like, I don't know where I'm going right now, and it makes me happy to be able to tell them, like, ultimately make the right decision for yourself and find what makes you happy. What is your passion? What do you want to do? And helping people find that is such a cool thing when you get a call or a text or whatever it is saying, oh, coach, I did this and this. I don't care if it's baseball related. It doesn't matter to me. I don't, sports, football, who cares? Are you happy in life? Are you successful in life? Are you happy where you are?
Yeah.
Are you happy with who you are? And I think that is the hardest thing for a lot of people, is to go, I'm truly happy with myself and who I am and where I am. And it's a long journey to get there. It's not easy. So to be a person to help somebody to get there is, oh man, it makes you feel so good. And it's why we do what we do.
Yeah. Your passion is serving others.
Yep.
And that goes
Absolutely.
right along with your purpose, right? So that
Yep.
fuels your purpose. Because I always say
Absolutely.
passion equals purpose, and purpose equals passion, and you have perspective in between to help you.
Yep.
And your passion of helping and serving others equals your purpose of life.
Yep.
And I'm just going to tell a little bit of about you, John, so people can understand really where you've come from. When John was in high school, I'll be honest with you, I had many meetings. He probably doesn't even know this, with a lot of his teachers.
I'm sure.
Um, that he didn't know that I had meetings with his teachers and so forth, checking up on him and getting him through.
Yeah.
And and I understood why. It wasn't because John wasn't smart or isn't smart or anything like that. It's far from that. It's people have tough situations, especially when you're 15 years old and you lose your father. It's a traumatic experience in your life, and it was just hard on John. There's a couple times in games I had to pull him away from opposing players because they almost got in fights and
Or after
those kind of
games.
things. I remember we're playing in the state semifinals in football one time, and we had given up the lead, and we were trying to get the ball back to get it to our offense and everything else. And John caused a fumble. I'll never forget this. And I went
I
out.
think about it all the time, Coach.
Yeah, and I went out to the huddle, and John's coming up to me, Coach, I had that fumble. I had the fumble. He fumbled, and they did. It didn't go our way. We ended up losing. I think we
Yep,
would have won another state championship if they would have called that play, to be
I
honest
agree.
with you. But that's the type of competitor you were.
Yep,
You were always fighting to the end, and I'll never forget going out to that huddle and you coming up and doing that. And that's just the kind of person you are. And to see the full circle of what you've done and where you're at now is just, as a coach, it's why you do it.
yep,
And it doesn't, what I want people to understand is it's not just coaches that can have the impact that you're talking about with your players. When you're talking about a player texting you 8 years after you coached them and you're talking to them and helping them and giving them advice and all that, it's any kind of leader in business, the fire department, or anything like that. I think leaders miss out on that opportunity so many times. And people out there just think, well, it's just coaches who have that impact. No, it can be any kind of leader. That's the
absolutely.
leader of a business, the leader of anything, can have that same kind of impact on people, if you have it in your heart. And that's what you're focused on, is the people first. Because I've never heard you once in all your coaching things, and I was there, I wrote a letter for you for that award that you got, and as a coaching award, the National Coach of the Year and all that kind of stuff. Is just, I'm like a proud father. I mean, a proud coach, and that's what I am.
Yep,
But the thing that people don't understand is you have not once talked about anything that has to do with winning in this conversation.
yep,
And that shows me what kind of a people first coach you are. And that's what I'm most proud of, because the wins will come with what you're doing. The wins will come with that inspiration, that motivation that you're giving your kids, and that all the stuff that you give your kids.
yep.
The wins will come from that. It's a byproduct of that. And it's not the first thing, but you haven't talked about winning one time as a coach in this whole conversation. And that's what shows me really where you've come. And it's an amazing story, John. It's just I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
I can't even tell you how proud of you I am. And I know that the next journey of your life, this inspiration journey that you're going to start on, that we talked about, and so forth, is going to transform even more people. I know this conversation today will transform some people and make people think, and maybe look at their perspective a little bit different and have a different purpose, and really try to figure out and really live their passion on a daily basis like you do.
Yep.
Because you never know what's going to happen, right?
You never know. It could change tomorrow. And you know, to piggyback on your point about the winning is, and I think as a coach or a boss or any kind of leader, you want to see your people that you work for or coach or teach or whatever it is, you want to see them win at life. You want to see them
Yeah.
succeed and have life skills. You want them to be able to overcome adversity, to be able to lose a game and not lose their mind. You can't base your whole life on just wins and losses. There's so one of my favorite quotes, I can't remember who said it, an old basketball player, he said, I've never lost, I've only won or learned. And I think that's so poignant, because if you can walk away from a loss and know that, all right, yeah, I lost that game. What did I learn? Why did I lose that game? Why did I lose this aspect of my life? Why did I lose that? If I can learn from that and grow from that, I'm a better person in the long run. And ultimately, if I'm able to learn from those losses and even learn from the wins, how am I going to win in the long run? And it's such an important thing, as a coach and as someone who works with kids and as a human being, is to really push people to be the best person they can be and to just succeed in life
Yeah.
and be happy and
Well,
grateful.
yeah. And I always said the exact same thing. It was always, for me, the joy of coaching was the opportunity to help kids overcome adversity, to help kids understand that their purpose is greater than than themselves.
Yep.
And every win, every loss, every adversity, everything was an opportunity for me. I just loved it. I love that opportunity to let's dissect this, let's learn from it, let's get better
Yep.
from it. And to see um, my players and to see, I just love my players. I always have loved, they meant so much to me. But to see what you're doing, John, and to see how you're transforming lives and you're making the world a better place in a turbulent world right now with,
Yeah.
70% of Americans are disengaged at work. That means 7 out of 10 people don't like what they do. I bet you if 7 out of those 10, if we could bring 7 out of those 10 people here and they listen to John Palladino talk, their disengagement would probably be going away. Some of them. Okay, because you give them a different perspective and
Yeah.
you're telling them to look at a different way to look at life and so
Yeah.
forth. So you're changing the world, buddy. And it's as a coach, as one of your coaches, I certainly, hopefully I was a piece of that, but
Absolutely.
you're the one who's done this. And it takes a village. There's been a lot of people that have been in your life that have helped you along the way and so forth. But in
Absolutely.
reality, and when it comes down to nuts and bolts, you're the one who had to make those choices because you could have made a choice to stay bitter. You could have made a choice to say, okay, I'm done. I'm not going to do anything. She said, I can't do anything. You're
Nope.
the one who made the choice. And that's what I want everyone listening to this to understand is you have the same choices. You can make the same choice as what John's made. To live life, to get after it, to go for it, to have a purpose that's greater than yourself, to learn a better perspective on life, to have a passion to live it every day. You can make that decision just like he did. And his decision was either living or dying.
Yep.
That's the biggest decision you'll ever make in your life. And look what the end result has done. It's amazing story. Just an amazing story. I hope as many people can hear and see this as we can, and we're going to try to get you out there even more, telling this story and inspiring people and helping people. But I just want to thank you for doing this. It's been so inspiring for me. During this conversation, my whole body has gotten goosebumps about 5 times. I almost started crying a couple times. And you and I have talked, and I've known this situation with you, and it still gets to me every time. And the inspiration that you're giving me to keep plugging away and keep doing the things that I'm trying to do is awesome. And I thank you for that, John. And we're going to keep going on this journey, buddy. So anything else that you want to say or
I just want to thank you. To be brutally honest, this is the first time I've ever truly told my story. So I'm still figuring out my story. It's a day-to-day thing, but it's the first time I've sat down and talked with someone other than my wife about everything that I've gone through. Um, I've always been introverted with it. I've always kind of felt like, like we talked about the other day was who am I? Who am I to do this? I've always just kind of lived my life, and talking to you has given me the confidence to go out there and say, you know what, you're right. This story is an amazing story, and it's something that if it can be used to help others and to give others, what it's given me and what it's given my wife and my son and everybody around me is such a huge opportunity. And you,
what it's
coach.
given me?
So yeah, it's I'm just really grateful for. I graduated high school 17 years ago, and here we are sitting talking like old friends. And honestly, your commitment to me when I felt like I didn't deserve that commitment from anybody when I was a kid, to be sitting here having this conversation. If you would have told me this 17 years ago, that we'd be sitting here right now having this conversation, I would have said, you're out of your mind. And it's something when you as a coach, you don't see that when you are going through what I was going through as a kid. When someone is truly fighting for you, they tell you things that you don't always want to hear.
Yeah.
And that's a hard thing to swallow, especially as a 15-year-old kid.
Yeah.
To sit there and go, this guy, who is this guy? Who does he think he is? Who's he telling this to?
Yeah.
And it takes a long time for things like that to sink in. And I thank God I was able to allow that to sink in. And over time, and all the time I think about the high school days and all the things you did and mountain camp and pride and perfections of
Yeah.
pride and, I think about it all the time how much I just wanted to walk away. I just wanted to take my helmet off, throw it to the side, like I'm done,
Yeah.
I'm out of here.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
didn't, because of people like you and people that believe in people like myself. And now I get to carry your torch inside of me and pass that on to others. And that's such an amazing connection for people to have, you know.
Oh, it's awesome. I'm so happy for you. And it's just it's a great day. It's a great day, and every day is a great day. So
It's a good life.
we're gonna continue this journey, buddy, and you're gonna keep inspiring others. So I just want to thank you for this. And I hope you keep fighting and you keep going, because it's never ending. And you keep loving your wife and your son and all those boys and kids you're coaching and all that stuff. I know you will. And the legacy that you're leaving and starting and going to leave, hopefully 80 years from now, is going to be breathtaking. So
Thank
keep
you.
going, bud. And we'll talk to you soon.
All
And
right.
we'll get some information out when we're gonna get some stuff going with get you a website maybe and some of that stuff. And I'll try to promote that stuff as much as we can for you. So hopefully everything's going to be okay. And we'll talk to you soon.
All right, coach. Thank you so much.